Welcome to another episode of Indiana Politics. I'm Deb Chubb, and we are going to talk today about the Office of Attorney General in Indiana. We're lucky to be joined by an expert in this area, in Destiny Scott. She comes from Indiana, grown up here many generations, and graduated from undergrad here, and then went off to University of Texas at Austin for her law degree. She came back and worked in the Attorney General's office under Curtis Hill, the previous Attorney General, and then also worked in the Indianapolis the Corporate Counsel's office for the city of Indianapolis. And so we're very lucky to be joined by Destiny today. And to start a conversation, I just want to point out that we have had two Attorney Generals now with really outsized personalities and really extremist views. Of course, Curtis Hill being most famous for having his law license suspended after sexually assaulting two women legislators, among other problems. And now we have Todd Rokita as Attorney General in Indiana, who within a month has made himself famous for first perpetuating lies about the 2020 election results, and now for having another job besides being Attorney General. So Destiny, thank you for joining us to talk about this topic.
Oh, thanks for having me, Deb. And I'll get in trouble if I don't say it's Destiny Scott Wells.
Oh, sorry about that.
Mr. Wells will think I ditched him.
All right, sorry about that. So great. So let's get right into it. We're so confused at this point, I think, about what is acceptable behavior for an Attorney General for the state of Indiana. And so maybe you can just give us a little primer on what is the responsibility of an Attorney General for the state and what is their authority?
So I think that a lot of people believe that the Attorney General has this vast amount of power, and that's really not the case. And especially if you're reading the comments coming out of Rokita's office or Rokita's Twitter lately, you would think that he can influence many things like elections and the sorts, but that's not true. The Attorney General is provided by statute, and that he or she is responsible for basically being the defense attorney to the state, to state agencies and its employees. Like teachers. So anytime that an agency gets sued or an individual gets sued who is acting within their duties, the Attorney General's office will represent them. So that's the litigation piece. Also, the Attorney General advises the legislature. Let's say a representative has a law that they want to put forward as a bill, and they want an opinion on its constitutionality. For example, Curtis Hill put forward an advisory opinion on whether the governor could mandate masks and whether that could have criminal ramifications. They can do that. And then also, they just give advisory opinions to agencies, and that's about it. There is some white collar crime that they can prosecute, but as far as criminal jurisdiction, it's very limited. They sometimes think that we're more like, let's say, a state like New Jersey, whose criminal justice system the Attorney General oversees. That's just not the case in Indiana.
Well, and it looks like there's some legislation that might change that a bit, and we're going to talk about that a little later on. So tell me a little bit more about Rokita's positions that he has taken that really seem to be, a la past President Trump.
Right. So he's a bit lockstep with President Trump. And even now, after the Capitol Hill riots. So we saw him when he was AG-elect, aligning himself with President Trump about, let's say, election fraud. Now, Curtis Hill and Rokita are a lot in a lot of ways similar. So in like Texas v. Pennsylvania, where Indiana joined in, and they wanted states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin and Georgia, they wanted their elections to be overturned because they went to President Biden. We joined in on that, the state. And so Rokita said that, he had those same beliefs and that same interest in that case. And very quickly, the Supreme Court wouldn't even entertain it because other states don't have standing in states' elections. So he started out, in that way. And then the Capitol Hill riots occurred and you didn't hear from him for a while. And then he tweeted on January 8th that I will always be for our president. And, this really didn't sit well with people, with the Twitterverse. And so he says the next day that he actually was just doing an experiment in First Amendment speech. He wanted to see if the tweet would be taken down and if Twitter as a corporation would regulate his speech. And then he goes on to talk about his First Amendment rights. And this is just ludicrous because he's gaslighting Hoosiers. We have First Amendment rights against the government. Our First Amendment rights are there to protect us from people like Rokita, not for Rokita to be protected against people like us.
So, and all right, it becomes a little comical. You can't help it. So then another problem comes to light recently about Rokita, and that is that he has another job besides being the Attorney General for the state of Indiana. He's also a stakeholder and an employee of a consulting firm that gives advice on healthcare policy to employers in particular, and I believe the state. So tell us more about that.
So Apex Benefits states that it's Indiana's largest benefits firm dedicated solely to employee health and welfare benefits. So it's the largest firm. It has a lot of clients and it has a lot of contracts, not just with private employers, but also with government entities. And so Rokita started working there before he became Attorney General during that those couple years where he wasn't a U.S. Congressman and he wasn't an Attorney General. And so he has this employment, and Senate Bill 1 is heard early January, and Rokita shows up and says, not only am I AG-elect, I'm here to testify as an employee of Apex Benefits. So what is Senate Bill 1? Senate Bill 1 protects employers against any possible COVID litigation. So he's already showing his hand that he has a conflict, but he doesn't care, and he tells them that he has this conflict. And why is that? Well, Indiana statutes are very lax as far as conflicts for office holders. And so you'll hear analysts say, oh, people just kind of turn a blind eye. And what Rokita did was he didn't get an opinion as AG-elect whether this was really a conflict. Instead, like I said, he's in front of the Senate testifying. So what he does is he takes office January 11th, and then he asks for an informal advisory opinion from the Inspector General the day after. Now, his new chief of staff is Lori Torres. Lori Torres was the Inspector General. Now, Torres says that she wasn't there when the opinion was given, that she had already started working for Rokita. But it really makes you ask, why didn't he take care of this when he was AG-elect? That's what that time is for. It's to address these conflicts and to offload them if you need to. And so this opinion, because it was an informal advisory opinion, is confidential. And so there may have been a little gaming there, right? I can show up, I can testify on behalf of my company, I can take office the 11th, and then I can ask for an informal opinion with my chief of staff, who no longer works there, but was working there at the time that I was aware that I had the conflict. So we're never going to know who wrote that opinion, and we won't know those conversations that took place, behind closed doors. So what are the next steps? Well, the Ethics Commission can issue a formal opinion, and they can look at these business relationships he has. As Attorney General, he has clients like the Indiana Department of Insurance, and he's still on the rolls and a stakeholder in a company that is in the business of employee benefits and insurance. He also oversees the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, and that's very close to the space of his clients. Now, a lot of the analysis I've seen has only looked at it from the ethics statute. But what they need to remember is that Rakita is also the chief legal officer for the state of Indiana. He must be duly licensed as an attorney to have that role. Like we saw with Curtis Hill, we have the Indiana professional rules of conduct that attorneys must follow to maintain their license. So it's not just the ethics statutes that people just kind of, wave their hand at. It's also that he's an attorney. He's party to all of the lawsuits in Indiana. Most of that, there will be very limited instances where he may not be. But what he should have done as an attorney was say, hey, I work for Apex. Well, first of all, Deb, you and I know that he should have just quit. But he should have said, I have all these clients and I'm now Attorney General. I'm on all these cases. Where could I possibly have a conflict? And you would have to do a conflicts review, and that takes a lot of time. Obviously, this wasn't done. The opinion was issued within 4 days, and I'm not really sure that the Inspector General is really concerned with what Todd is doing as an attorney. So there's rules within the professional rules of conduct. There's one, it's called 8.4, and it says that you can't do anything that's prejudicial to the administration of justice. And then there's a nice convenient footnote that says, if you're a political office holder, you're held to a higher standard. So, there's a conflict here. There's a conflict, to say the least. And the office has said, hey, he's going to release his financial disclosures. You'll see, I guess that will lead to who he's directly working for. But that is not a mechanism that is timely. This needs to be an ongoing review and really just the appearance, right? So he's a stakeholder in the company. Anything Apex Benefits touches, it appears that Todd touches. And so he really shouldn't be working there, period. And people have brought up the ACA litigation. Now, that ACA litigation was actually started by Curtis Hill, and it's been fully briefed and argued. And the position of the federal government's changed slightly on the merits because of the Biden administration, but they haven't asked for a supplemental hearing. So I don't think that Rakita will be able to influence the ACA litigation, even though it is in the same space. But like I said before, he can advise the legislature on how it moves forward, and he can influence the legislature to the benefit of his clients.
That is just unbelievable.
His private clients.
His private clients, absolutely right. Not us, which he's supposed to be representing. Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't make sense. Anybody who's in business knows that your primary goal is to make a profit. And as a stakeholder, you have honestly a fiduciary duty to ensure that that corporation is making a profit. So I'm not sure how that cannot conflict with some of the issues he's going to be taking up as Attorney General. So we also know that the legislature historically passes bills every year that they fully expect to be challenged because they are not constitutional. And in fact, they appropriate money when they pass these bills to pay for the defense of the bill that they know that they will have to defend in court because it is unconstitutional. And so we're seeing that again this year. And of course, reproductive health has always been, a testing ground for the Indiana legislature, willing to go over the line no matter what, and spend whatever amount of Indiana tax dollars to defend unconstitutional laws. So talk to us a little bit more about the bills that are coming up this year and that we expect to see Rakita, spend our tax dollars to defend.
So we spoke before, and I'm just going to say really fast, or my friends at the AG's office will be upset with me. They also do consumer protection. So back to your question, we said before that the Attorney General gives advisory opinions to legislators about bills that they want to put forward. And So there was a bill in particular, SB 200, that the Attorney General, when it was Curtis Hill, took a neutral position on. And that was to allow the AG to have prosecution, to allow when a local legislator decides blanket, I'm categorically not going to prosecute a certain crime, that the AG is able to step in and request a special prosecutor to prosecute those crimes. So that's an expansion on his duties that the legislature is trying to do. And there are a couple of bills like that right now. That bill in particular is being put forward by Senator Young. He'll tell you that it has nothing to do with Prosecutor Ryan Mears in Indianapolis and his refusal to prosecute low-level marijuana crimes. He'll say instead that he was thinking about it beforehand, and those people in other states were doing things that were troublesome, so we tried to get in front of it. So that is a piece of legislation. And I think that even though Hill didn't take a position, because you have to think he was a former prosecutor, right? He at the end of the day is probably on the side of prosecutorial discretion. But I think if you see Rakita have a chance to step in on a local prosecutor, he's going to do it because he wants to be able to brag that he did. You also have SB 198, where the AG will have concurrent jurisdiction to prosecute offenses of what they're calling rioting, so unlawful assembly. Really, it's just an anti-protest bill that's masquerading as an anti-riot bill. The AG has the ability to prosecute some crimes that are committed during those assemblies at this time, but this bill will expand that, and it will also enhance criminal penalties. So what will that do for the Hoosier citizen? I mean, it's going to chill their First Amendment speech, right? They're not going to want to go protest if they know that if they're even in the vicinity of the protest, that they could have, there could be a criminal penalty. So those are efforts by the legislature to expand the power of the Attorney General. And they've done this before. I think they did this last session, where they wanted the Attorney General to be able to prosecute like almost any crime that a local prosecutor chose not to. And really, it's just an effort by the legislature to step in on these urban communities, like you see in Marion County, like you see in Lake County, and allow a Republican Attorney General to have power.
Yeah, we're seeing that really all over the country, this kind of adversarial relationship that is really emerging between urban areas and very conservative state legislatures. All states have some, urban areas that tend to be more liberal, tend to, be in favor of minority rights, and here we have a state legislature trying to, kind of step all over that. And Indiana has seen that quite a bit, not only in this anti-protesting bill, but also in the tenants' rights ordinance that Indianapolis passed last year, that the state legislature just stomped all over this year. So this home rule issue is really it's bigger than Indiana. It's happening all over. But I want to ask still about these bills, like the reproductive rights bills. I don't know, you can't really call it a reproductive rights bill when it's taking away
right
rights. So it's an anti-reproductive rights bill, I would call it. One in particular that is requiring physicians to tell patients that if they take a pill that induces a chemical abortion, that they can reverse that process by taking some other pill. And of course, we know doctors have testified, that this is not proven, this is not scientific. Nobody knows if this is accurate, and it's really not cool to have require doctors to say things to patients that are not scientifically proven. So again, do you think that's going to be something that the AG is going to be defending in court at taxpayer expense?
Absolutely. So that bill that you mentioned in particular, HB 1577, was put forward by Representative Peggy Mayfield. She has a history of putting forward anti-abortion bills, and they, the majority of the time, end up in litigation. And so, to your point of costing taxpayer dollars to put forward legislation that they know to be unconstitutional, that bill in particular, doctors have raised their concerns that they feel that if they have to put forward this junk science to their patients, that they will be committing malpractice. So out of the gate, it's unconstitutional. And what is the question there about whether Rokita will defend it? Okay, so if you go back mid 2010s when DOMA Defense of Marriage Act was being litigated all across the U.S., then Attorney General Eric Holder encouraged states' attorneys general to not fight those cases if they believe them to be unconstitutional. And so you'll hear many Republicans say that you have to defend it, right? It's a statutory obligation. You have to defend the statutes, Indiana statutes. And really, so in the trial courts, yes, you should. You heard Jonathan Weinzapfel say this when he ran for attorney general. You have to defend the laws. However, once you start to get at the appellate level and like up to SCOTUS, there is discretion there whether to litigate these, and it's a bit of strategy, right? So you don't want to litigate something that would possibly undo laws that are favorable to you. We also shouldn't want to waste taxpayer dollars on something that you know is a lost cause. And you ask whether Attorney General Rokita will fight these. I mean, we have to look at his political views. So he believes that there should be no abortion in any instance. So even if you have a woman dying with a non-viable fetus, he doesn't care. Okay, women are second-class citizens. So you can bet that he's going to channel all his energy into trying to get to the level of SCOTUS and chip away at Casey and to chip away at Doe. So that's where he's going with that.
A foregone conclusion. Okay. All right. Great. Well, and then I think
I meant Roe. You just say he's going to chip away at Casey and Roe v. Wade, if he can. Yeah.
Great. So, all right. We can see that this is problematic. We can see that we need to work a little harder to get a Democratic Attorney General elected in 2024. And we've got 3 long years that we're going to have to put up with this. So I am very hopeful that you'll come back and we'll talk about this again as we move through this dark time in Indiana. So sum it up for us, Destiny. What can we expect in the next 3 years from this Attorney General that we have?
Well, it's like last night on a call, I said, hey, we just need to buckle up and get ready for the ride until 2024, because we do have this Republican supermajority, and we've seen it the last couple of weeks out of the State House. They're unhinged. And then we have this overzealous, self-promoting Attorney General Todd Rokita. He never shies away from the limelight, even if it's negative attention. So those two actors are going to really be at play, and they're just going to kind of egg each other on until we can get some balance in there. We haven't had a Democratic Attorney General since 2001 with Freeman.
Karen Freeman Wilson.
I don't want to, mess up her last name, Wilson. Yep. And I think we had a Democratic Attorney General from 1993 to 2001. And so we've had Republican attorneys general for a while now. And I think it's imperative that in 2024, we run a strong Democratic candidate for Attorney General. I'm not sure if Rokita will run again. He always has bigger ambitions, and sometimes I think we all know he's just sitting in this position to stay relevant. But 2024, we really need to start working on that.
Yeah, well, and in political campaign terms, it's right around the corner. So we really need to start finding good candidates and developing our case. So, all right, so we're almost out of time. So, Destiny, I always like to ask for any great parting words of wisdom that you can share with us. I always get good answers. I know you'll put us things.
Great parting words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Drink water.
Well, that's good. Self-care. It's all about self-care. So,
Water, stay hydrated. Like we said, it's 2022 is just, around the corner, and 2024 will be here before we know it. So dig in and get ready.
that's great. All right. Well, I look forward to talking to you again. I appreciate all of your wisdom on these topics, and it's complicated. And so we're lucky to have experts like you to help us understand all this. So, all right. Until next time, thank you so much, Destiny.
You're welcome.